I'm Nick.
And I'm John, and we're here from Jersey Tactical to introduce the Responder.
Here at Jersey Tactical, we're always creating new tools to help the operator breach more effectively and easily. This was in the works probably since 2006 when we first started Jersey Tactical, when we invented the boot. We always wanted a small multi-tool, a small pry. These were created for decades before, and generally what it was just a general pry bar, flat pry or bent pry, just to gain a little access, and it wasn't very effective. So the history with this, John always was great at gapping, where what makes our tool different is that we have a gapping component. Nothing currently has a gapping portion on it, so when we recreated it, he says we had to have a mechanical advantage that would be able to gap. So incorporating this, I incorporated back when I was a bounty hunter in the 1990s, early 1990s. I was an inventor back then too, so I created different kind of shims, different kind of rakes, different kind of ways to, how do I say it, gain access into structures, to apprehend people. So different parts I incorporated from the bounty hunting, and with John's idea and Nick's idea, we added everything to make one of the most versatile multi-tools. There's several different operations you can do with this. The important thing is that when you start getting different operations, it may not be as effective as the main tool on a specific operation. This is what gets you to the next tool. This gets you from a single operator with nothing to a single operator that can carry a tool on their person at all times, to now it's not a big enough mechanical advantage, we go to our Jersey bar or a claw. So we have a whole product line that gets the operator from nothing to a tool they can carry consistently with multiple functions to larger tools to get through virtually any kind of obstacle. The difference with John and I as inventors at Jersey Tactical, we realized what we needed when we were on a job, and we found out that this is a must-have for the operator to carry with them 24/7, or it's also a must-have in a facility to try to escape if you need to. We're going to demonstrate one of the operations which we call raking. These ends right here, this is called the raking and shimming end. It's made to rake locks or shim locks from the other side. So this is an outward opening door, meaning it opens outward from the room. To get a door open outward, we can shim the latch with this portion right here. There's always about a 1/16 to an 1/8 to sometimes more of a gap between a door jamb and the door itself. With that, we slide it over. If you look at it, we slide it over the latch like this, and what we're going to do is just pull. So that's in effect what it's doing. It's pulling that latch like that. So if we close it, lock it, we just slide it in there and pull. You pull. I usually pull on a doorknob as well to make it come out open a little easier. If I have to pry up like this, sometimes that's all it takes. Lock, slide in, opens. Simple operation with the raking end. Okay, with some installations, carpenters sometimes caulk the doorstop. So what's great is with the small gapping end, large gapping end, I would just score down here so I can get a purchase point underneath that doorstop. I would get rid of the caulk, which would enable me to slide the shimming end in and complete that operation. Another operation for the Responder is gapping. There's several different ways to use it. There's two ends. There's a 1-inch gapping end and a 1 3/4 inch gapping end. So the small gapping end creates a mechanical advantage. Once we get a small gap purchase point, we can put the large gapping end in and pry down, and that gives us 1 3/4 inches.
Concrete wall, reinforced jambs, steel door, one lock, plunger style handle, and it's going to be right-handed. Hinges are on the outside, so obviously this door is going to open to the outside and go this way, right? So we need to gap this forward, right? We need to go ahead and gap this. The way we gap this is like we were showing you on our prop. We're going to use the mechanical advantage, and then we're going to switch to the other one. So we're going to use this and then switch to that. All right. So you want to go above or below depending on the setup. You can also go ahead and, just like before, put a little bit of body weight or your knee or even your foot. Take some slack out of the door, and we're going to go ahead and feed that in. I'm going to try to get as close as I can because again, I want to get close to that lock that's stuck, and I want to be right below this covering so it doesn't move off, right? So I don't want to be up on this this cover. I want to be just below it and get as close as I can to that lock. I still need to go ahead and put pressure in. So as I put pressure in, I pull up. There's the first one. Just come around here, you'll see. You can see it's challenging it. From there, we're going to go ahead and come up a little bit further so we get the full rotation. Once I get the full rotation, you can see it's almost defeated. Come take a look. Now, I can foot and capture the whole progress. As soon as I do that, you'll see the door start to come back a little bit. Now this is really important. Instead of this, I've got to go ahead and rotate. And here I want to go right above now because different ways of working at different angles. So I'm going to come right up here above, right above that collar. And then that's going to allow me to come straight down. And I'm right in here.
There are different operations you can use on an outward opening door. Outward meaning it opens towards us, outward from that room, with the prying ends. We don't pry with this end, just the big prying end we use, where you can use either the gapping ends to gain the gap. See how the gap is? Or you can pry it open sometimes. Now, this all depends how it's installed. If it's installed properly, you're going to have a jack stud that's close with a king stud and only small shim, so there won't be a lot of flex. But if they installed it quickly, there's going to be a significant amount of flex. Sometimes you can open a door like this, where it would just pop out. Another function of this is the prying end. We utilize the fulcrum portion of it for mechanical advantage. We never pry with this end, but something like this, all you would do is insert it underneath a pallet, say for example. You would put it under here, and what we do is when we push down, if you see the pallet, this pallet has probably about 500 pounds in it. It'll pry it up, and if we want to keep working it, we slide a PPW under there, put it back under, get another grab, and we can just keep doing it this way, where we go down and keep sliding that PPW, and now you look, it's already about a ½ inch off the deck. Slide it in again, get more, and just keep working it that way. That's utilizing the fulcrum portion. Another function of the responder, as a multi-tool, it's limited to your imagination, but you can also chop and dig with this. So we have some little concrete here. You can scrape, you can chop or dig if you get into a rock or something. A lot of times in a tactical environment, you might need to get into something, dig something. But basically this crushed rock millings have been impacted for years, but it can dig if you need to. Okay, now we're gonna show how the responder works on double pane windows with 2 sashes. The easy way, of course, is just hitting it with the glass break. If it's tempered, it'll crack, and you can clear out the glass with the rest of the responder. We can cut it if it's laminate. You'll see that in different portions of the video. But when I wanted to covertly enter structures, when I was So as you see, I'm wearing safety glasses because sometimes I can pry. If we show up there, I can pry, and you can see where I'm getting a gap in the lock. The lock is engaged, but right there I defeated it. So if you look over here with these, this is would be a replacement window. The whole window is popping out of the track. So right there, the window's defeated. So if I wanted to, I could pull this whole window sash out and crawl through, or I could bring this portion down and pop that out as well. So that's one way. So I defeated the sash just by that little movement. Another way to defeat a window is by attacking the glass panes. If you look, there's always some kind of glazing, whether it's glazing compound, putty, silicone, or some kind of mechanical molding that secures this window pane. And here it's just a plastic piece that we're not going to break. But what you would do is somehow you could either cut the putty out, cut the silicone out, and then just work the whole perimeter, getting all of that out. With that, it'll compromise the pane. So what we want to make sure is generally they come out. The panes of glass come out this way. Depending on different hurricane codes, there could be different ways that they're mounted. But generally, if you attack the window panes and you get the glazing, it should come out this way. So whether I work it and just grind this putty out, and then I can slide in the raking hook and pull it out. Just be careful. Always wear eye protection, always wear gloves, because when you're dealing with panes of glass, there's a good chance that it will break and crack. An important feature to the responder is the glass cutting capabilities. A couple ways we can defeat windshield glass on a vehicle. What I like to initially do is strike it with one of these two ends, where we would create a constant striking technique that creates some holes. Then what you do is you insert this side in. What happens is these safety ramparts, they are for cutting glass. They're made to cut glass but not cut your hand. You would insert this portion in and just use a sawing motion to cut away the glass. Once the complete windshield is removed, compromised, you hook it with this end and you pull the windshield out. This is called the safety ramparts used for glass cutting. This is what we hook the windshield with. Another function for the responder would be denying access. To deny access, there's two ways to do it. So you could use the short side and kick this under, and it depends on the flooring material. Concrete, it might slip a little bit. It's not as strong this way, but on carpet or more surfaces that will create more friction, that'll hold very well. But the way we do it would be to actually slide the long end in, kick it, and that's all it takes to deny access. If you push hard enough, it will slide on concrete or smooth surfaces, or you see the other end protruding outside the door, which might be a signal that you're wedging the door shut. But what I say is, if we're temporarily denying access, say in a swap function to keep somebody from coming through that door, if somebody starts kicking that to knock it out, what will happen is at least we'll be signaled from the noise and the movement that somebody's trying to gain access. Another way would be for firefighters, if there's door closures on the top and they want to run hose through, a lot of time they'll chalk or wedge doors open. The same thing can happen. If there's a closer up there, they can wedge the door open to pull the fire hoses through. After 18 years of developing this tool, months upon months of designing it, creating it, come up with the proper heat treating, the proper alloy, we're finally ready to bring it to market.
We wanted to make it affordable so that everybody could go ahead and purchase one. And the reason why is that you could go ahead and put this in your vehicle, you can put it in your glove box, you can put it in your briefcase, backpack, anywhere, have it at the ready and be able to use it. Total weight, 1.25 pounds, just under 12 inches in total length, 1 3/4 on one side for gapping, 1 inch on the other side. Also, it's our custom alloy. It's our little secret that we've developed over the years.